what we're working on today is we're going over the cove light. Now the cove light is a technique that I picked up from being on Roger Deakins' blog. Roger Deakins is, you know, well-known cinematographer. He did Skyfall, he lit 1917, he works with the Coen brothers a lot. No Country for Old Men, Sicario, you know, Sicario wasn't Coen brothers, but still super beautiful. So I found that his work tends to have a very sort of like naturalistic feel to it. And, you know, since I'm shooting documentaries, I'm always looking for a way of creating an authentic image, especially during an interview. So what we're going to be looking at is recreating a cove light for your interview setups. Now, what is a cove light? So essentially a cove light uses indirect lighting. So you're bouncing your light off of unbleached muslin into your subject, okay? Instead of using a direct source, like say a softbox, to illuminate your subject. So what I'm setting up right now is our two softboxes that we have in the studio, that we regularly use in this studio. So this is kind of like a, more of like a kind of over-the-top lighting setup, right? Like this is essentially like a massive overkill softbox. I love it because it really helps to create diffused light. And so it takes away this sort of like sourcey sheen that you're gonna get on your face. And this is ultimately the entire purpose of this, and why I like the cove light, is that it essentially removes this direct sourcey sheen. So even though we use softboxes by themselves, even a dual stage softbox will look fake. It'll look contrived. It'll look like you have placed an electronic light in your setting to illuminate your subject. So I'm going to demonstrate that by just, for the moment, removing this out of the way. We're going to put Nick up here, and we're going to illuminate Nick with both of these soft boxes, right? So that way you can get a sense of the level of sheen. What we're going to do is we're going to illuminate it with the 2-stage diffusion, then we'll illuminate him with 1-stage diffusion. So that way you can start to get an understanding of what I'm talking about, so I don't just sound like a weird person. Now the cove light is essentially a sheet of unbleached muslin. Unbleached muslin is expensive, right? So I went out and I just purchased a canvas drop cloth from the department store, right? So this is what you throw down when you are painting rooms, okay? When I traveled, I used this in my most recent interview setup for the Ranked Choice Voting Resource Center videos, and then I used this in my J. Patton Barber Story video, as we illuminated him with the cove light. What you do is essentially you hold it up like this, and the purpose is ultimately to have this curve to it, right? And you bounce the lights off of it. And so what this does is it gives you some really soft light, but it gives you this interesting uplight, which is ironic, right? Because we have been trained to think of not uplighting your subjects. That uplighting is some sort of like unflattering light, right? Harsh uplighting makes you look scary, okay? It's that campfire effect, right? It's really weird looking, it just makes you look weird, okay? But indirect uplighting isn't as intense. It's not as scary, it's not as threatening, right? It's got a much more natural looking feel. That's because a lot of how you're being illuminated day to day is actually from light bouncing off of the floor and coming back and illuminating your face. So yes, we always have these like top ceiling lights, but very often when like you're lighting for a natural effect, light bounces everywhere. Light's bouncing off of surfaces all the time, right? Surfaces are reflective. So there's a reason why I painted all of the surfaces in the studio black, is because I want to try to control the light bounce as much as possible. So right now, like the light from the top lights are bouncing down off of this light colored carpet and then coming up and illuminating, right? So even though we have these harsh top lights, it seems to look fairly even across my face, right? So that's essentially the benefit of the Cove light, is it gives this more naturalistic feel. It doesn't seem like just one source coming from one direction, and it doesn't give you that weird campfire look coming from below, okay? So there we go. That's the Cove light. Now this thing is massive, right? Like we're literally from the floor all the way to the ceiling. So you've got a massive light source that is throwing just extremely soft light onto our subject. And that's the benefit of the Cove light. It throws very soft, pleasing, natural looking light onto your subject. Where this has come in beneficial to me in my uses is in my most recent shoot for the Ranked Choice Voting Resource Center. We were filming in a library, and this library had very high gloss woodwork around it. All the books had this glossy sheen on them, right? So it was a highly reflective place. And I also used this when I was at the barber shop filming Jay's story, because he had the very glossy floors. He had mirrors all around in that space. So this provides a very pleasing, soft light onto the subject that's less likely to cause very intense reflections. Now it's still going to be picked up, it's still going to be reflective because it is a light source in the room, right? But it's much less harsh than, say, a direct source that is pointed in the direction of that reflective surface. So that's why you get less of that sourcey reflection on the face, as well as you're going to get less of an environmental reflection as well. Another benefit is that if you're in an untreated space, using the Cove light kind of helps to dampen some of those sound reflections as well. So it's kind of doing double duty for you. But like I said, it's not a one-size-fit-all interview setup, but it is super helpful when you need it, primarily in an untreated room and in a more reflective area. All right, so I hope this was helpful to you. If you guys got some value out of this, definitely give me a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.